Man, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of EOS. It's 1090 Jake, man. I'm rocking with y'all, and y'all rocking with me. And for this video, we're gonna be speaking on DJ Pat, the alleged killer of Takeoff, being released on a $1 million bond. A major update in the tragic murder case of Takeoff is making its way through social media. 33-year-old Patrick Clark, the man charged by Houston police with firing the fatal shots that ended Takeoff's life, has now been released on a $1 million bond. On November 1st, 2022, police responded to shots fired at a bowling alley in Houston, where they discovered Takeoff, who'd been shot twice and pronounced dead at the scene. Amongst all the cell phone footage that would make its way to TMZ and the lack of actual witness statements, police would find a break in the case when viewing the surveillance footage in which they were able to observe a man holding a wine bottle in one hand and firing a gun in the other. That wine bottle would be recovered from the scene, and forensics were able to lift a fingerprint which identified their suspect, Patrick Clark, who's more commonly known throughout Houston as DJ Pat. Arrested in close proximity to his family's home address, investigators would discover DJ Pat applied for an expedited passport after the murder for an upcoming flight to Mexico, and as he was placed under arrest for first-degree murder, he'd be found with a large amount of cash. Initially, a judge would set the alleged killer's bail at an astounding $2 million, and a motion for reduced bail would ask the judge to reduce it down to just $1 million, and with defendants only needing to produce 10% for release, that would mean if DJ Pat could come up with $100,000, he'd be free. His lawyer would express how DJ Pat was one of 3 kids raised in the Houston suburb of Channelview, where he's lived his whole life. In fact, he still lives in his parents' house where he was born 33 years ago. Graduating high school and a current community college student, DJ Pat is currently employed as a disc jockey, even though he has no reported income. If released, Pat's lawyer expressed he'd be once again living with his parents, who were confident he'd show up to any future court dates. The motion for reduced bail would be granted on December 22nd with conditions. DJ Pat would be required to forfeit his passport, have no contact with the family of Takeoff, no contact with Jay Prince Jr. or his family, and no contact with pro boxer Shakur Stevenson or his family. DJ Pat would be required to not possess firearms, submit to random drug tests, wear a GPS monitor, and remain on house arrest. The courts would even go as far as listing his family's address, where he must reside at all times, 24 hours a day. The danger in this is the man who killed Takeoff, a beloved rapper and multi-millionaire. The fact that DJ Pat is to remain in a publicly listed address for 24 hours a day could potentially mean his life and his family's lives could be endangered, especially knowing he's not allowed to possess firearms and the backing of the Prince family is essentially gone with the no contact conditions. But this wasn't the only problem. DJ Pat's lawyer would ask the courts for financial assistance and hiring a private investigator. DJ Pat would be listed as indigent, and for those that have never been to jail, this is like jail's version of food stamps, where you're so poor, the jail gives you a free pencil, paper, and stamped envelope so you can at least write a letter to ask for some money. His lawyer would claim his family has exhausted all finances to hire him as a lawyer who agreed to work for a substantially reduced price. The judge...
My inspiration is just flowing and coming.
We can drag one of these chord progressions in. Boom, just like that.
The judge decided to grant DJ Pat $5,000 towards hiring his own private investigator. Roughly 2 weeks later, and DJ Pat's family were able to secure the $100,000 needed for his release, which has now caused speculation into how they exactly raised the money when Pat had to be granted funds and hire a lawyer at a reduced cost. While many may have ill will towards the man because of who he allegedly killed, that doesn't defeat the fact that DJ Pat may have a strong stand your ground case, as he wasn't the only one armed with a gun that night. But we'll just have to wait and see how this case progresses and the route his defense chooses to take. Now, this may be upsetting to many. This may be a sign of relief to some. In a lot of different cases, especially when it comes to, like the race politics, oh, how come he got a bail and how come he didn't get a bail? Well, in this case, he got one, right? $2 million reduced down to $1 million, granted $5,000, bonds out for $100,000, killed Takeoff. My biggest issue, if I was him, is the fact that everybody knows where I'm at. If you're smart enough to figure out how to access the court papers, you can get his address. You know what I mean? And it's been out since his initial arrest. But the fact that they're saying, yeah, you're on house arrest, you're not allowed to leave, you're not allowed to have a gun, and you're in that house, it's kind of like up there for anybody that would want to whatever. The only thing that he's getting off with, in a sense, is the fact that he has other family members there who can possess guns. So anybody even gets on their property, they're getting shot down, because that's just how Texas is rocking. And for two, he's in his home city. You know what I mean? It's not like he got booked in Atlanta for killing Takeoff and he has to remain in Atlanta, because that's pretty much a fucking suicide mission. He'd probably be better off inside of the jail. Now, looking at this case from an unbiased perspective, right? Take out the fact that most of us are fans of the Migos and specifically Takeoff. If you're in a crowd when an argument is going on and you have a gun on you and you see somebody else pull the gun out, you pull your gun out. I don't believe they clarified in the paperwork who shot first, but you fire your gun while you're holding your wine, make sure you don't spill that. You start shooting, you hit somebody in the process of guns being exchanged. You know what I mean? This is gunfire. You can't hear shit, your ears are ringing, it's just a fucking sudden rush of adrenaline, and whoever's still standing when it gets quiet, that's what it is. But in the midst of that confrontation, somebody dies and it just so happened you fired the gun that killed that person. My defense would clearly be, I saw somebody brandishing a weapon, I felt threatened, I fired when they fired, or whatever. I took the opportunity to fire first. You know what I'm saying? Like, however you gotta spin it, I'm still going with the self-defense. And as we've already covered in another video, DJ Pat beat another self-defense shooting in which somebody was wilding out in the club and DJ Pat and the security guard both opened fire and killed him. So this isn't his first rodeo with a situation like this. And Texas is Texas. If you are in fear, you can lethally protect yourself. Same shit with Florida. You can use deadly force to protect yourself or protect others around you. But honestly, my first thought when I heard he got out on $1 million and only had to pay $100,000 is the Prince family. Like, all right, we know they're stacked up. This motherfucker ain't got no money. He's been a club promoter for what, like 10 years now? You look on his Facebook, you can go way back, but he doesn't have any reported income, most likely because he gets paid in cash and he still lives with his parents. So he probably got a car with some rims or some bullshit because he doesn't have any property of his own. And whatever. If his parents put up the house to get him out, however they fucking secured that situation, or somebody gave them some cash, because apparently he's not allowed to communicate with the Prince family, who I'm sure, if they were legally allowed to, would back him. Because in their point of view, he didn't do nothing wrong, right? Somebody from the Migos side was the one that pulled out a gun. So Houston's gonna protect Houston at the end of the day, and you can't really say they're wrong for that. But regardless of how he was able to get out, the fact is, he's out. And now, it's gonna be a matter of, what is the next move in the defense with this situation? And their next move is gonna literally spell out how the rest of this case is gonna go. If he goes the route of self-defense, you kind of have to stand on that, because when you go the self-defense route, you pretty much admit to everything that you did. You're gonna have to say, yeah, I did this, and yeah, I did this, and that's the reason I did it. And you're gonna have to take that to the door. What I'm surprised about is the fact that he's charged with first-degree murder, because this seems like a second-degree situation. First-degree murder is a premeditated murder. Second degree would be something just happened and that was the end result. And even in a self-defense situation, if they fully don't go for self-defense, it could even be reduced down to manslaughter. At the end of the day, if you get convicted of a murder and you get 15 years or less, you really got off. But that doesn't mean anybody wants to sign up for 15 years, especially DJ Pat, who's already 33. But like I said, we're just gonna have to wait and see how this case progresses. It's 1090 Jake.